welcome back to another biscuit recipe. We tried Mama K's biscuits 2 weeks ago and they turned out beautifully. I've made them again since, and both times my family really enjoyed them. Interestingly enough, as I was searching for recipes and tips and tricks, a friend contacted me and said, I just used your mom's biscuit recipe. And I said, my mom has a biscuit recipe? I don't remember mom making them. So long story short, I ended up calling my mom and she instantly rattled it off by memory. She knew exactly what recipe it was, and she knew all the increments, she knew everything about it. I was just blown away. Obviously she's made this more than once. So I'm gonna try it today. We're gonna give it a try. It's a very basic recipe, has very few ingredients, so we are gonna give it a try. And a shout out to Vicky for telling me about this. I do want to say thank you for those of you who have watched the video. Thank you to those who have responded, commented, shared, liked my new little venture that I'm starting on. But let's get started. And the first things first is 2 cups of flour. So my boys and I are going to have biscuits and gravy for dinner tonight. My husband won't be home for dinner, so we're gonna have breakfast for dinner. And we need some fresh biscuits, so here we go. 2 cups of flour. Okay, and next, a tablespoon of baking powder. So 1 tablespoon of baking powder. A teaspoon of salt. You could also use self-rising flour. For those of you who don't know, self-rising flour and all-purpose flour are very similar. The difference being self-rising flour has your baking powder and your salt already added to it. Used to be very common for recipes to call for self-rising flour, but it seems like now most recipes call for all-purpose flour, and then you just add the baking powder and salt to it. So next ingredient is oil. It's gonna call for 1/3 cup. Now it doesn't say this, the instructions are very basic, but I like to just whisk my dry ingredients together just so that they are mixed in a little better. To me, it just seems like it makes the job a little easier. So, takes just a few seconds. So we're gonna add in 3/4 cup of oil. I'm just using regular vegetable oil. I feel fairly confident. Whoa. Always double check your measurements. It calls for 1/3 cup of oil. Whew, that would have been a bad mistake. That's better. Okay, I'm sure the oil would be interchangeable. I'm just using a basic, cheap vegetable oil. Okay, I'm gonna get a fork. I'm just stirring this together, bringing it all together until it creates a dough. It's going to be crumbly, which is what you want. And I like to use a fork or pastry cutter just simply because it creates the right kind of texture. I did stir it to begin with, but now I'm just simply mashing it through the flour, trying to get that cutting action, that cutting texture. Continuing to move and turn my bowl so that it all gets cut in, all the flour. We don't want any dry, powdery flour left. So I shouldn't say we don't want any. There will be a little bit left, but the bulk of your flour, as you can see, bulk of your flour will look crumbly. You'll have that oil all mixed in really well. So look at me acting like I know what I'm doing. Trying to teach y'all how to make biscuits while I'm learning myself. Okay, so I like this texture. I like how it looks. Very crumbly, but not like typical flour where it's powder. I'm gonna set this aside because I'm starting to run out of room here. So now it calls for 3/4 of a cup of milk. So anytime I make a recipe for the first time, I tend to be very precise with my measurements. After that, it just becomes measure with your heart. So again, just gonna mix that in. That's my oven telling me that it's done. Now, this is very, very doughy. As you can see, it's very, very wet. Because I've never made this before, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I've not seen a biscuit recipe yet that was this wet. So I hope this is right. Sure doesn't look right. So we're gonna go with it. This is, like I said, this is Mom's recipe, right? That means we trust it, I think. Okay. Now it said to stir the ingredients together and then dump out onto a floured surface. So because these look so doughy, I am gonna go pretty heavy on the floured surface. I wouldn't normally set out quite this much flour, but it is pretty doughy, so. Now, this is to knead in the flour. I know with most biscuit recipes, there is no kneading involved, but we're gonna give this a try. I apologize, my headset's trying to fall out. This is a new learning experience for me having a microphone on, so we'll see how this goes. All right, so this is kneading up really nice. It actually has a really nice feel to it. So again, I don't have a rolling pin. If I ever decide to learn how to make pie crust, I'll have to get a rolling pin. I know someone mentioned that they heat their pan before, they heat their pan as they're mixing their biscuits. And I wanted to try that and I just simply forgot. So thank you for sharing that tip. And I do intend to try that eventually. I am sure it affects the texture. The instructions does say to grease your pan. I did not, because my cast iron pans are very well seasoned. I haven't had a biscuit stick yet, so hopefully this is not the first. So my dough's getting a little stiff here. I'm gonna try to get a couple more biscuits out of this. And then I like to take the last of the dough and just make a really humble biscuit. So it doesn't waste any of the ingredients. So it's humble, and small, but it'll work. Okay, here we go. Stick these in the oven. There was no time given on the instructions, so I'm gonna start with 8 minutes. That's what Mama K's does. It starts with 8. It says 8 to 12. I know that your oven time will vary based off of the oven temperature. So I'm gonna start with 8 and I'll let you know what the final timing is. By the way, don't they look beautiful? So technically it's been 12 minutes, pushing close to 13. And I have taken the time to clean up my kitchen a little bit and also start some pre-made sausage patties, just because it's my boys. So let's check these biscuits. I peeked in on them earlier and they look really nice. So as you can see, they have fluffed up really good, but I would like them a little bit darker, a little bit more brown. So we're gonna put them back in just another minute to let them go ahead and brown a little bit. Okay, so it's been almost a full 13 to 14 minutes that we have been cooking. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull them out regardless of what they look like, although I do like for them to be a nice toasty brown on top. I don't want to overcook them. They look beautiful, except for my one little humble biscuit. Gonna serve this up tonight with some pre-made biscuit gravy. I'll eventually learn how to make my own breakfast gravy. But for now, it's a mix, I won't lie. And we're gonna have some sausage patties as well. So there you have it, my mom's biscuits. Okay, Gabriel, what do you think?
I don't know. Good, I guess. It just tastes like a biscuit.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm gonna give these a try. Okay, so this is interesting. I said I don't remember my mom making biscuits, but I remember this taste. That's crazy. So, I'll be honest, they're not my favorite biscuit after trying the others, but they're not bad. They're good. They were easy. They looked pretty. They actually kind of rose, which I wasn't expecting that, but they had a little rising power in there. And overall though, they're good. They're just not my favorite.